I'm Sharifa George, Public Relations Coordinator of APUA, and welcome to Necessary Conversations with APUA, where we have discussions about matters within the authority. So picture this. It's been a long day at work, and you're looking forward to a nice, refreshing shower, but then there's one small problem. The water is discolored. So you're bothered and concerned, and you're probably asking yourself questions like, what's going on? What's happening? Is this safe? And most importantly, what is APUA going to do about it? Today, we are having a necessary conversation about water quality control, and joining us on Necessary Conversations with APUA is Chemist within the APUA Water Business Unit, Timica Richards-Allen, and Wayne Martin, also known as Kwang, Superintendent within the APUA Water Business Unit, and he is responsible for the distribution of water on the network. Welcome, Timica and Wayne, to Necessary Conversations with APUA.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So before we get into the discussion, you were asked to reflect on a time on the job that was most memorable to you. And so I'd like for you to share your stories with us, starting with Timica.
Well, one of the things that was most memorable for me was when I started my employment here at APUA. I reflected on a time when I was a student at the Antioch Girls High School, and we went on a field trip to the Delapse water treatment plant, where we were observing the water purification process. And I remember as we were going through the tour, I was just so fascinated by the process, seeing how the water was clarified, and then coming to work for APUA Water Department and being on the job and being associated with that department. It was somewhat of a surreal moment for me.
It was actually a funny situation because that happened to me as well. I remember being a child calling 211 and 311 and going, hey, can I imagine myself working here? And then look here. Look where I am now. Anyway, Mr. Martin, what's your story?
Well, I have a lot of memory. Not remember the time, but the first day at work, we went on a job site at Grizzle Reservoir, and just looking over St. John's, I just recall that seeing my picture, seeing a photo of myself and my mother holding me on that rail, because my father used to run that reservoir, and I was born up there. So going back the first day on the job to where I was born was quite, quite a fascinating day for me. So just imagine looking over now as a gentleman, young man, looking over the city of St. John's from Grizzle Reservoir. So that resonated a lot in me.
So it's almost as if you were meant to work at APUA.
Well, I was born there, so that's my job. That's my calling.
All right, so let's get into the discussion. So the first question, Timica, is for you. What is the cause or causes of red or brown water in the system?
Well, firstly, red or brown water, of course, is what people would call rusty water. And it's mainly caused by iron solid deposits in the water. And most of it comes from the fact that we still have quite a bit of iron pipes in our distribution system. And of course, as the water passes through the distribution system, it will pick up some of that iron, as well as some of it's naturally occurring in the water. And at times, if you have introduction of air into the pipeline, you cause a process which is called oxidation, which cause the iron to be manifested in the water. And then, of course, when the customer goes to the tap and they turn it on, they will see brown water coming from their tap.
Okay, so could you verify for me whether or not this is the quality of water coming out of the reverse osmosis plant?
Well, the water coming from the reverse osmosis plant is quite clear and considered potable. So no, that is not the water coming from the reverse osmosis plant or even the surface water treatment plant. The water has to meet a particular standard before it's actually put onto the distribution system. However, traveling from where the plant is and then getting to the customer, of course, it has to pass through the pipe network. And at times, issues may develop along the way, which cause now the water to not be at the quality that the customer would want it to be.
Okay, so Timica, we're talking about standards. So what are the standards that APUA is required to adhere to in order to produce potable water? And also, could you include whether or not the water that is brown or red is actually safe?
Well, speaking of the brown or red water, when a customer opens their tap and they may be exposed to that rusty water, it's not something that necessarily going to harm or kill you. But of course, it's not desirable. It's not what the customer wants. It's not what you're actually paying APUA to supply you with. So of course, it's not desirable. In terms of the standards, though, we follow what is called WHO guidelines for drinking water quality, and WHO, of course, World Health Organization. And there are certain parameters that we are required to test for in the water and different levels that would be considered acceptable. So some of the parameters that we would check for example, is like the chlorine residual to ensure that the water is chlorinated, disinfected. We're looking at the pH levels of the water and also the turbidity of the water, which has to do with the clarity and so on. So those are just a few examples of what we test for, and of course there are others.
Thanks, Timica. So Kwang, on to you. In the event that a customer receives red or brown or rusty water, as some refer to it as, once the report is made, what is done on APUA's end?
Well, when we get the report, we verify exactly the area where the person that have the problem or the area. We will go there then and check, make sure that we flush the line, get rid of that brown or rusty water, what they call it, and then we actually check back the customer or the complainant to make sure that the water quality is of satisfactory so they can continue their normal duty in life. So we actually flush the area, we do a back check as well and make sure, and actually, I know a few times we actually call back the customer days after. Everything is all right, they say yes or no, well, we go to make another check again.
Okay. So Timica, we have a laboratory at APUA that's responsible for monitoring water control. So what's the process that is used there to monitor the water on the network?
Well, we actually have a schedule, and all areas of the island, we have it zoned. So we visit different zones on different days, and it also includes the treatment plants also, whether it be a surface water treatment plant or our treatment plant. So, of course, the lab technicians, they're the ones who are responsible, and based on the established schedule, they would go to the different plants and visit the different sample areas, collect the water samples, and do the test. There are some tests that they would do on the spot in the field, so they carry with them a field kit, and then, of course, they would bring the samples into the laboratory, and we do the final check within the laboratory to ensure that the water is meeting the standard.
So if the water is below standard, what do you do?
Well, if the water is below standard, that's where teamwork and communication comes into play, because it may not necessarily be something that the lab techs can rectify, but of course we're not going to just leave it like that. Then we would have to communicate, say for example, with somebody like Mr. Martin here, and as he spoke about going out and doing the flushing based on where they would have sampled that rusty water, they would notify him and let him know, and then some flushing would be done. If it's a situation where it is a chlorine issue also, then the techs can also back check to ensure that chlorinators are working. If there's something that's not operational, then we communicate with our maintenance department, and they would go and rectify a chlorine issue.
So it can either be rectified at the plant or rectified on the distribution network?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so Kwang, what are some long-term or short-term fixes for the brown water issue?
Well, short-term we're working on is more flushing, short-term. Medium-term where we can loop 2 dead ends. If you have a dead end, you loop it so the water can move from being septic, so you can move in a circular form, so the water doesn't really stay at the dead end. And the long-term is mainline replacement. You know, right now we are doing mainline replacement, and also we are doing installing hydrants for the same short-term and medium-term. But because we have an 8-age water system, we actually are doing pipes right now. We have already put in the order so we can replace these pipelines, so we can get rid of that particular brown water and the dead ends as well. And you know, we're moving from PVC now to HDP pipe, high density polyethylene pipe, which is the years of service is 50 years. PVC is just 20 years. So we're moving towards that right now. And we're actually going to build the system more resilience now when it comes to brown water or water that is stagnant in an area, we're going to loop everything and put in unnecessary fire hydrants, whatever needed, we're going to put them in. We actually put in orders as well to rectify this problem.
I have a question. So there has to be a strategy to mainline replacements. Are there any areas that are prioritized? Is there a schedule? How is it done to determine which areas are getting the mainline replacements first? What's the system? What's the process?
Well, we have a couple of areas that we have to deal with, but the first we have to deal with the transmission mains between Crabs and Parham to the distribution system. After we handle that, and we might handle it 100%, but we have to deal with ovals in the city, Micah's village, we have the entire Point, Villa area, we have that area, we have even the city, St. John City, we have a lot of old pipe, we have to replace that as well. And then in the outskirts, we have like Clay Hall area, going up Wireless Road, we have Freeman Village, the south side, we have the west side in Parham Village, and a little small area in Potters West, going up to Scottsdale area there. So quite a bit of areas still need to be replaced, but these areas are going to tackle first. But we're going to deal with the transmission first and then gradually move into the distribution system.
So the transmission main between Crabs and Parham, and then we'll go into the different areas after that. That's the process.
Yes.
Okay. So what about the protocols in place when you have a broken main to flush the line of debris? What's the process for that?
Well, when you close on the burst pipe, you repair it. But after you're ready to open up, you have to flush the line. Flush all the debris, maybe foreign material might get into the pipeline. When we close it down, we have a back siphonage where the water can be back siphoned by the negative pressure inside the pipeline. So when we finish repair the pipe, we actually flush through through fire hydrants or washout valves, and then we put back the water back into the system.
Kwang, are there any tips that you can offer to customers to check the water clarity following a burst pipe?
Yes, like when you have in an area and they don't have any water, and then you realize the water come back on, you can just run the tap a little bit. Use a clear glass bottle, so you can check and see the quality of the water before you actually, especially when you want to wash. Just do that and make sure everything is clear. If you see coloration for a long period, you call the office again, make a report, and we'll find ourselves back out there as soon as possible to get that water flushed and removed from the pipeline, so you can have potable water at the end of the day.
So we have come to the end of Necessary Conversations with APUA, where we just had a discussion about water quality control. And there are a few takeaways that we would like to share with you from this discussion. In order to remedy the issue of brown and rusty water, we'll be introducing the fire hydrants in various communities at dead-end line areas to help to loop the system and flush out the lines. In addition to that, APUA adheres to the WHO, the World Health Organization standards for potable water, which is safe for consumption. And we also recommend that customers do a visual inspection, a visual check by simply seeing the quality of the water when it comes out of your pipe after a disruption in service. So thank you so much, Timica and Wayne, for joining us on Necessary Conversations with APUA.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Pleasure.
We'd like to invite persons to join us on Facebook at APUA and also on our YouTube channel, because next episode we're going to be having a necessary conversation about metering and billing. Thank you and bye-bye.